Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Mystic Sense series on numerology. Today with us is Mike from Mystic Sense. Before we dive into our topic, could you please share a little bit about yourself and your spiritual practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Good day. And yeah, like you said, my name is Michael Kemo. And yeah, I'm a practitioner of basically all spiritual arts. We all are. And basically, I am first and foremost an astrologer and then an intuitive. And and there you go. I mean, just to answer your question, that's what I do. The basis is astrology, and then of course it branches out into intuitive work where I channel and connect to energy via other means. But there you go.
Fantastic. So once again, you can find him on Mystic Sense as Michael Kumo, correct?
Yes, exactly. Michael Kemo, Kemo, and just like I think basically, I mean, I started my spiritual practice. I mean, it started when I was younger, when I was actually before elementary school or grade school. I had a dream that it was a precognitive dream, and basically what that means is that it's basically a dream that shows you the future. All right. And I had this dream when I was, like I said, beyond grade school or before grade school. And I know because I was actually in a daycare center and I had to be there because, again, I was before school age. So very quickly, I had a dream that something would happen the next day. It was just basically me playing with my friends. And then the next day, when it happened, I remembered it. And this is different than deja vu because deja vu, you kind of, you have the experience, and then you say, "Oh wow, that was strange. I kind of felt that happened." But at this time, at that age, it was different. At the time when it was happening, I said, "Oh, this is strange. Something's happening," but I'm already aware of what's happening next. So it wasn't that I was aware of what's going on after the fact. It was as it was going on, I knew how things were going to unfold. So anyway, that was my beginning, and because it was such a young age, that began my spiritual journey to say, okay, well, it's time to do more than just what we see, what we see with the naked eye.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like a lot of young people have experiences and it doesn't often get talked about much. Um, which is really sad. I'm seeing more and more people talking about their kids having experiences though, which is a good thing,
Well,
I think.
Well, you're exactly right, and the fact that you said it's kind of sad is probably very it's actually an understatement because, like you said, what would have occurred back then if I had looked back at it and I said, wait a minute, this is strange. I don't want to share this with anybody. I don't want to talk about this. So yeah, that would be a sad thing because here I am, or here in that case, people repressing something that is natural and happening. And like you said, it's a world that would otherwise be undiscovered. And so yeah, you absolutely make a good point. It's definitely a realm worth discovering.
Yes, yeah. And from a young age, I know a lot of our psychics that interview say that they come into their abilities at a young age. I did too myself. I think I was around 7 when I had my first experience.
Oh wow.
I remember correctly. It's a little foggy because it was so long ago, but I know at 7 something happened that kind of shook me a little bit. But being from a religious background, I didn't talk to people because I was afraid, of what they'd say. And really, for children, in my opinion, they need to feel safe talking to adults about these things. Saying I had this dream or I had this experience or saw this thing, it shouldn't be a taboo thing at such a young age, in my
And you
opinion.
make a great Yeah, no, you make a great point, Phoenix, and especially at a young age. And like you said, just like you, it's one of those things that when it happens at a young age, it's even more powerful because it allows you, and especially at that, and as many of your listeners, your viewers here probably be familiar with, but it's a lot of those experiences around the age of 7 or before the age of 7 that really stick with us for the duration of our lives. So when we're able to consciously identify and say, we may not know everything, but if we can at least identify and say, something happened around that age of 6, 7 years old, that's the key to really unfolding a lot of life's great gifts. And that's what we're talking about here.
Exactly. And since we talked about the number seven, I know seven deals with spirituality, and we are talking about numerology today. So let's dive into our first question. I feel like that's a good intro with the number seven. Um, what is the significance of numbers in numerology, and how do they offer insights into personality traits and life paths?
Well, yeah, that's great. I mean, and yeah, so let's talk about it. And perfect segue. You are a professional. And yeah, so let's talk about it. So, life path. Let's talk about number 7, for example. So, number 7 is actually the vibrational equivalent of spirituality, wisdom. And so, to answer your question as to how it plays a role, um, I'm going to use an analogy. I know we're not talking about astrology, but it's connected. So I'm going to use astrology. So we all know that we all have a sun sign, okay? I'm a Gemini, or I'm a Leo, I'm this or that. So numerology also has this similar qualities. Life path. That's sort of the main number, the essence of who you are. So I guess you can say that is sort of the sun sign of numerology. So numbers carry a vibration, all right? And so if you, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but if you add up your name, the birthdays, we'll go into it, but it all equates to a vibrational equivalent. So direct to your question, let's just focus on that part. The life path. You did say life path. So everybody has a life path number, and that, like I said, would be the equivalent of your sun sign. So 7 would be a focus on spirituality, wisdom. Whereas, let's say that, and again, I don't want to dive too deep, so I'll just end it right here. But let's say that perhaps you have a life path number of a 1, and that you can get by adding up the digits of your birthday. So that would say that you're more of a leader, or at least that's the vibration of a leader. Now, of course, you may um, uh, work into that, but and again, we'll go into that as well. But again, yeah, each number actually has its own vibrational quality, and the ancients do share that numbers are actually the fundamental layers of reality.
Yes, very powerful. I fully believe that numbers are fundamental. They're like the cells of our existence, because really anything that can be measured can be quantified in number. And even things that can't be measured still have numbers attached to them, because if you break it down enough, breaking it down is math too. And it's funny, some people are like, oh, I don't like math, but math is really a powerful thing. And if we look at numerology as a spiritual side of it, it really opens so many doors.
But when it comes to spirituality, I think that a lot of things that we sort of run away from or like ignore often end up being the most empowering things. And I say that because of what you said about numerology. A lot of, well, I'll just piggyback off of what you said. A lot of times I'd look at numerology before and I'd say, well, I'm not sure if that makes sense, or I don't know. All right, I'm an 8. What does that mean? But when you actually look into it and look into how your life unfolds, or how the opportunities that are there represent a lot of the vibrational or numerological aspects, or ideas or clues as to where you should go or what you should do or what decisions you should make. But the key is that the correlation is just too obvious to ignore, and that's what's happened for me. Again, a lot of times I'm a very logical person, all right, and I'm very logical. So growing up, having these experiences was somewhat challenging for me. So to your point again, when you say, okay, everything has a numerical value or there's some correlation, and then of course, as I invite everybody listening to this to look into Pythagorean and the Pythagor and just see how it all lines into reality, and it will be very illuminating. And that's what's happened. That's what has happened for me, and it sounds like it happened for you as well.
Similar, yeah. I'm a big fan of Pythagoras, as I know you are too. We talked about that. Um, and I do know a bit of numerology, but I'm definitely not like really in depth with it yet at this point. But it is something I'm very interested in. Um, okay, so let's move into our next question, which dives a little deeper into the different parts of the numerology. I'm a three, by the way. What is your
Okay.
life path?
I am actually a seven. There you go. I'm actually a seven. Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. So let's go into that. Let's discuss the meanings of the core numbers like life path, destiny number, soul urge in numerology. So what do these words mean and how are they significant?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, let's go into it. So we did go a little bit into the life path energy. That's kind of like your main essence of okay. And then we also have the destiny. All right, the destiny number, and that number is where instead of the birth date digits, you're actually going to use the numerical equivalent of your name, your full name, your first name, your last name or your surname. And then so each number will have a numerical value. A being 1, Z being 26. All right, and let me explain this. This is the basic um, numeral computation, if you will. Many of us may know this, some of us may not. So basically, you're adding up the numbers and you're reducing it to either a single number, meaning one plus zero, which is 10, would actually be a one, and so on and so forth. So each of those numerical values have a number, excuse me, have a value. So very basically, and again, so yeah, so okay, so we have the life path number. We could just let's focus. We have the life path number, and then we have the destiny number. The destiny number is sort of what you will grow into. All right. So let's take now, we use ourselves as an example, and listeners can say, okay, well, let's say you're a seven. Okay. Wisdom, spirituality, fine. But then your destiny number might be something else. It might be a three, okay, which is more focused on creativity, okay, and that sort of thing. So the key is that your destiny number, all right, as opposed to the life number, is something that you're growing into. Whereas your life path number is okay. I'm a seven. The theme of my reality here is going to be wisdom, spirituality, healing. All right. But then I'm also a three, which really focuses on creativity. So there may be some blending of creativity and spirituality that may lead to greater illumination. So again, destiny number is, as opposed to the life number, is what you're growing into. And lastly, there's the soul urge number. And the soul urge number is a little bit different. It's a little bit more abstract. It's a little bit more hidden. So that involves our more hidden motives, or you can even say our more subconscious motives. So just to summarize very quickly, we have life path number, destiny number, and soul urge energy number. And again, it can seem to be a very complicated, but it's very simple. And the soul energy number, or the soul urge energy number, instead of life path, where we're adding the numbers, all right, instead of destiny, where we're adding our full name. This time for the soul urge energy number, we're going to add up the vowels. All right. So again, A is 1, Z is 26, and so on and so forth. So then you're only adding up the vowels to get your soul urge number, which would be the more hidden aspects of what you're exploring. So right there, you have three deep layers of exploration. And already, if you just think a little bit at the potentiality, the 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 method or the modes or the roads to illumination is that's it's really awesome. Really, I mean, it's an awesome thing. We live in a very awesome time where we can access this information just like that.
Yeah, fantastic. Um, Soul Urge is a little bit where I get lost, to be honest. Um, but I
Sure.
have a quick question on
Yeah.
this, because it deals
Yeah.
with our names. What would happen if someone was to change their name? Like, let's say they get married, their surname changes. Does that change their path because they're now interacting with this new direction?
That's great. No, that's a great question, and what I have always understood is that no, it's not necessarily a change in it's not a change in direction, if you will, but it's more of an indication of that the path of reality that that person has decided to take now needs to take a slightly different path than maybe they may have thought of prior. So to answer your question in a more succinct and plain way, um, basically, so like we said, numerology is all vibration. All right, so everything is vibration. So you cannot perceive anything that you're not the vibration of. So you can say then that changing your name, meeting that person that changes the name, or the event that changes your name, whatever it is, has happened or had happened purposefully now to work into your life path as it is evolving. So it's not a change, as in to say something was wrong, but it's more of an evolution. All right. So again, and again, just very briefly, this kind of goes into a common topic such as contracts, soul contracts. And the main point is that soul contracts are not like human contracts. They're not in stone, like they can't change. And that's kind of how numerology works. We come in with a certain energy signature, and then when we're here in this time space reality, perhaps we may have to make another turn. And I'll just end it right here again using the astrological metaphor. You have your astrological chart, and then you also have your progression chart. The progression chart is what evolves as a result of the free will changes that you make. So here, as we talk about numerology, you can kind of think about it the same way. So whatever circumstance in experiential reality leads you to change your name, get married, whatever the case may be, is necessary to represent who you are becoming at that time.
I love that. Thank you so much for explaining it.
Yeah.
That's one big question that I've had. I'm sure a lot of people watching also have that question. So that's fantastic. I think it wraps it up nicely. So our next question is, how can understanding these core numbers, um, sorry, I got lots. How can understanding these core numbers help individuals to gain insights into their own lives and their own paths? So how does it apply to your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question, and well, here we go. So this is actually a good thing here because how can we incorporate it into our lives? So let me use myself as an example. All right, perfect. Or anyone that may have a seven. All right, as a life path, like yourself, I believe. Right? You did say that, right?
I'm a three.
Oh yeah, three. Okay. Okay, so three. So we're gonna take three. All right. So let's say that you're a seven. All right, which I am. Okay, so we're gonna say a seven and spirituality, and then you either change your name or you run into some whatever the case may be. Wait a minute, I'm a three now, or I'm associated with a three. whatever the case may be. So I believe your question was, how does one deal with if they're dealing with a mixture of energies or something of that sort? Is that what you said? I want to.
Um, how can understanding the numbers help an individual to gain insight into their life and their life path, like the path they're on? So how does this help us
So
knowing?
let's say, yeah. So let's say that I found out that the soul urge number was a three, and you said that you did have kind of some issues with like, wait a minute, how does that work? So three, all right, create one of the aspects of a three is creativity, for example, really pouring that on compassion, sharing that with other people. Now wait a minute, I'm a seven, and now all of a sudden I get married, or this happens, or whatever the case is. Now the three is more prominent, or it's a solar. So that doesn't make any. Wait a minute. So this is how you can incorporate it. And like you said, not quite understanding it. I'm spiritual. I'm a number seven. What does this creativity have to do with it? So now this allows us to consciously accept it and think about, okay, how can I incorporate creativity more into my life? I may be a number seven, and everything may be pointing to, okay, I should be focusing on tarot, learning astrology, diving into numerology, looking into Kabbalah and other aspects of wisdom and spirituality. But wow, I just got married to the love of my life, and now this three soul surge energy is here. Now, by embracing that, you may find that you can use your creative aspects to help your spiritual journey. So perhaps the idea of starting a small channeling group, all right, together with 4 5 people who are very creative and they're out there, but you say, oh, I never want to deal with those people. Maybe you should. Maybe that will empower that energy that is within, like an astrological aspect, that soul urge energy of a three. Very deep, very strange. Does it let me go with the flow? Let me follow the path of least resistance. How can this soul urge energy of three actually complement my wisdom? And anyway, so that's how you can, by saying, okay, for whatever reason, okay, whether it's marriage, whether it's a sporting event, whether you add up the numbers of a day and a birthday and you say, this is a soul urge 3 day, or it's whatever the case is, by looking at how you can incorporate whatever aspect that number presents itself to you as a gift. That's how you can work with the energies, as opposed to working against it and seeing all of the differences, the contrast that it presents. So, in other words, you're empowering yourself again with the vibrational power of numbers, the building blocks of reality.
Yeah, that makes sense. It brings to mind that quote that knowledge is power. Being aware of these numbers, being aware of the numbers around you, the numbers you're interacting with, it can empower you to, take actions that might be complementary versus avoiding things because you don't think you like it, but things that really will feed your soul.
And yeah, and you know what, I want to that's beautiful. And let me and there's something called a spiritual birthday, and I'm not too sure if you're aware of it, but it has to do with your life path number, and every number, so to speak. But it's sort of goes to what you just explained about empowering yourself. And so let's say we're going to go with the life path again. It's your life path is a seven. So what you're going to do is you add up the numbers of each day. Today I believe was a four, tomorrow maybe a five, and so on and so forth. The key is, whatever is your life path number, all right, you're going to have about 3 or 4 of those a month. Those are your special days. And I believe you do something like, whenever there's one number that's your day, like let's say again, you're a three. So then plus add nine to it. And when you add nine, you'll get your next spiritual birthday, which would be next week, June 4th, whatever the day is. But anyway, that is just a practical way that you can use this in an empowering way. And when I say spiritual birthday, it's more than just, oh, okay, it's a spiritual birthday. No, this is when you're, like you just mentioned, become aware of these things. It can really present gifts to you in a way that that you would not notice as synchronicity if you didn't give it the power that we're giving it now by acknowledging its very healing properties. So anyway, just more of the power of the numbers.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with that. So thank you for sharing that. I'm familiar with like the energy of the day, but like I didn't know like we could apply that. That makes sense. Um, so let's dive into our next section. Yes, how can listeners calculate their own numerology chart? This is where things get very interesting. So pull out your notes and write down how to do this, or make sure you follow along with us. How do we create our own numerology chart?
Yeah, absolutely. So we sort of kind of, I'm glad you did come around to that because we sort of just kind of breezed through it earlier as we are talking about these terms. So number one, your life path. All right. So number one, so your life path number is derived from your birth date. Okay. So you're born, June 10th, 1980. So you're adding up 6 plus 1, 0 plus 10 plus 1980. You break it down, okay, to the single number. All right. So that means that, again, 8 plus 6 would be 14. Then you'll break it down again into a 5. And that's your life path number of a 5. And that's the same process that you do for each of the various categories. Next, destiny number, as we spoke of. This is the number that you're sort of learning into. All right. So let's say your destiny number is let's say it's a 5. All right. So 5 is freedom. And again, you're adding it up. You add up your destiny number the same way that you add up the life path number, except now you're taking the numerical values of your name. All right. So just think of it destiny number, name. All right. So that's your full name. And again, A1, Z26, and you add them up just as I stated. So, A, B would be 1 plus 2, and so on and so forth. And again, that's how you find your destiny number. What is it that you're learning into? Okay, so I may be a 5, okay, a freedom number, while having a 7, a life path number. So that may mean that as I am here on my wisdom spiritual journey, I may run into challenges when it comes into personal freedom or my perception of freedom. And so then for you, those people that run into that, then okay, my destiny number is a 5. That's freedom. So you know what? Maybe I may run into challenges when it comes to freedom. Maybe I may have responsibilities about giving service to other people or doing other things. So there you go. And then finally, the soul urge number. All right. Now the soul urge number, again, you add up the numbers the same way. This time we're using vowels only. So vowels only, the soul urge energy, and the soul urge energy, or the soul urge number, is again those deeper aspects of our psyche, of our reality, that we're not conscious as to what we're working on. All right. So I mentioned the life path number. Okay. I know. Ooh, I just have an infinity to tarot, astrology. I'm a 7. I'm a wisdom person. All right. Now, the next one, destiny. All right. Okay. I'm going to have issues with the idea of freedom. I'm going to have this person always asking me for this person always asking me for that. So I'm going to have to be of some service, and I may have to sacrifice or share my own time or freedom. Now, the soul urge energy. All right. Now we find out that that perhaps is let's say the soul urge energy is a 9, completion. Okay. What does that mean? Well, maybe on a deeper level, maybe there are some things that I just may not bring to completion. maybe there was something, and maybe I kind of let things kind of hang out more and on a more subconscious, subtle level that I may not even realize it. And maybe one day someone may come up to me and they may say, "Hey, Michael." I say, "Yes." And they'd say, "You've been really ignoring this topic for a long time." And I'd say, "Well, anyway, that's the point. That's a soul urge energy. It's hidden. It's subconscious, unconscious, even if you want to use that term. So, anyway, that's how you break down those three elements. And, well, there you go. And that's how you sort of apply them into your lives, into your experiential reality in a powerful and positive way. And another thing that can help you is remember nothing is ever working against you. The numbers, vibration, the universe, they're all working to self-preservation, all working to bring everyone together. And there you go. It's and I'll just say this. My A lot of my guides and my mentors always say this is physics. This is physics. This is a you can call it metaphysics, right? That's what we call it, metaphysics. But we don't realize what it actually means. But this is physics, blending the non-physical with the physical and making it practical.
Yeah, I love the word metaphysical. I looked into what it meant and how it came up, and meta actually means after, is what I found. And I just was blown away by that. Is like what comes after the physical realm. And that's really what we're doing. It's not in contrast to physics, but it's complementary. It's after, it's beyond the physical, but it's still very much an aspect of the practical reality. Just in
Yeah.
case you didn't know what metaphysical meant, that's how the word was broken down.
That's great, and it does bring it down to, like you just said, a more practical level, because we hear metaphysical. Oh, it's metaphysical, and it just rolls off without really. But like you said, when you actually break it down, like you said, metaphysical. What does it actually mean? And there you go. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you. So I did have one quick question when we're calculating our charts. If we were, let's say, born on March 28th, would we add, 3 plus 28 plus the whole year, or would we add like 3 plus 2 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 0?
That is an awesome question, and I don't know if you have a view on it, but what I believe and what I understand is that when you do add them up, in whatever way you add them up, it will come into the vibrational equivalent of what you need to know. And again, it's math. It's one of those things that, again, like you, I didn't like math. In fact, math was probably my weakest subject. I did not like it at all. And here I am. I go into a bookstore, and oh my gosh, there's a book I just got the other day. It's called Math for Mystics. It's amazing. I think your question was how do we what was your question again? How do
How do
we how
we
do we
add it? Are we adding it with like 28 as 28, or are we adding it as 2 plus 8? I'm going to do a few calculations because
Yeah.
if I remember something, I was blown away by something. So yes, as you're talking, just forgive me.
No, no, no. You're no forgiveness needed. And I think that what you're doing is, I think what we're explaining is that almost no matter what you come up with, it will almost add up to the same thing, if you will. And again, because it's math, it's like when you get into integers and prime numbers and this and that. So in other words, whether you add 9 plus 3 is 12 plus 2 is 14, or you just add 12 plus 2, it's going to be 14 either way. Or if it's not a 14, it will break down into 5, and then it'll break down into a similar. So I think it just correlates. What do you think? What did you decide
Yes,
there?
no, exactly. That's exactly what I said. In fact, I just checked it because I was blown away when I realized this. Everything really comes full circle with numerology. I just put in February 28th, 1980, and I put 2 plus 2 plus 8 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 0, and it was 30. And then I added 2 plus 28 plus 1980, and it was 2010, which is a three. So it's the same. It's a three way, and like it's just so you're completely correct. Is it's like it doesn't matter how you add it, the act of adding it will come up with the same outcome.
Awesome.
Right.
Exactly.
I just had to test it.
Awesome, awesome. It is awesome to be on the proper channel, and yeah, and I'm in the same boat, same page, so to speak, because again, there was one time when I would just sit there and I'd say, okay, 3 plus 9, okay, 9 plus 3, okay, 3 plus, and there you go. So
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's fascinating because you can get like different outcomes, but they all end up being the same number. Like you were saying, the 15 is six, and a six. Doesn't matter if it's three plus three. If it doesn't matter if you get a 15 or a 33, it's the same number.
exactly, and that is why it is so powerful to think of numbers as vibration. Because no matter how you add them up, no matter how you twist and turn them, they all add up to the same thing. And then when we think about it on an intellectual level, it kind of stumps us. We say, wait a minute. But then again, when we think of it on a universal level, yeah, it makes sense.
Yes, excellent. Thank you for covering that. I just realized that whole question was like a circle.
No, it was a great, you like you said, many people, I mean, again, when you asked me the question, I had to think about it. So again, it's something that we all have quite often. It doesn't go away. That's a great question, actually. So glad you asked.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And that's one of the things I love about numerology. So what are the meanings of the numbers derived from birthdays or birth dates and names in numerology? I think we kind of covered that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, we did kind of cover it. We did kind of cover the numerical, the values, the symbolism, the symbolism of the numbers. But sure, yeah, we can go into it a bit more. Yeah, so when you do add up the numbers, one, okay, would be again a theme of leadership. All right, so basically, you would add up the numbers to get 1 through 9. You would always break it down, or if you get a master number, meaning 11, 22, 33, then you don't break it down because those are master numbers. If you break down your life path number and that sort of thing, it comes out to an 11. You don't have to break it down to a 2 because 11 in itself, that's the path of intuition. All right. If you go down the numbers, you get 22. That's mastery. All right. And then okay, so again, and then there's one. Okay, like we spoke about. One is a focus on leadership. Two, focus on cooperation. Three, creativity, and there are other aspects of it as well, but these are kind of like four. Four would be sort of that person's energy. The vibration of four is more of a practical. Capricorn, practical structure. Five. Okay, a life path number of five, or soul urge number, destiny five, freedom. All right. Six would be a number of six. I believe is nurturing. All right, so that's a number that's associated with more being a nurturer, maybe even a healer. A healer. Okay, a lot of sixes are healers. Um, because that's a compassionate nature. Seven, as we spoke of, is more spirituality. Eight is a person with ambition, power, and a power, and a person with a vision of moving forward, that Aries energy, that Mars energy, moving forward. Eight, if you turn it sideways, is actually the symbol of infinity. So it actually goes with it. Nine, as we just spoke of, I think I mentioned it. If you're a nine, then that's the path of sort of completion. And then of course I spoke of the master numbers such as 11, 22, and 33. 33, I believe, is a number more having to do with mass with compassion, faith, being of service to others. So there you go. So that's 1 through 9 plus the three master numbers, and yeah, that's a vibrational powerhouse right there.
Thank you for sharing that. Very insightful, especially if people are following along, doing their own charts
Yeah,
as we're talking about this.
yeah.
So, yeah, wonderful. Can you guide us through the process of calculating and interpreting personal numbers for a numerology chart? I think we kind of covered. It's funny, we're covering it quickly tonight, aren't we?
Well, what are you talking about? You said something about segues, and it seems as if as we're talking, we're kind of like leading into each. That's fine. That's great. And yeah, and it's perfect to revisit that because again, yeah, we did kind of talk about it, but we kind of blew through it. So now the listeners can kind of so yeah. So when calculating this, well, what you're doing is you're adding up the numbers and you're reducing them to a single number always, unless it comes to those master numbers that we just spoke of: 11, 22, or 33. All right. So again, so let's say my favorite number is June 10th, 1980. So 610, 1980. So let's see if we can do this. So 610, 6 plus 10, you're looking at 16. So then you have a 6 plus a 1, then you have a 7. So now you have 1980. So you have 1 plus 9. That's going to be, I believe, a 10. So that leaves a 1 plus an 8 is a 9. So then you have a 9 plus a 7. That'll be a 16. So then when you have 16, you add 1 plus 6, you have a 7. And that's how you get your number. Whether it's a life path number, destiny number, or soul urge number. There you go.
Wonderful. I was doing that with you and I did it the other way and it was the same thing, the
Ah,
7. So wonderful. Yes. So yeah, so that's how you find your own individual numbers. Do you want to talk a bit about why we have master numbers? Why not add 3 plus 3 to make 6? Why not add 2 plus 2 to get 4, etc.?
what do you mean? What do you mean?
Um, the master numbers are something that I get a little
Oh, I'm sorry.
like, oh, yeah, and so I'm kind of asking like if someone does get one, like their life path is an 11, and that why wouldn't you, reduce it further? What makes them special
You're
compared to the
absolutely
other
right. No,
numbers?
no, no. You're great. I just didn't hear the first part. No, you're absolutely fine. What makes the life path number special is that it sort of allows that person to sort of take on and when we say higher, we don't mean better, but it kind of allows them to take on the higher octave or the higher vibration of the themes of their reality. So again, 11 is going to be intuition, right? But then if you just add it together, it's going to be a 2, which is more of cooperation and working with others, which in a sense is another form of intuition, but you're relying on other people. So if you think about it, the 11 would be a higher octave of the 2. Not saying that you have to isolate yourself, but it's saying that you are relying on or looking towards for support as opposed to cooperation of the two. All right. Now again, just contrasting the two, not saying one is better than the other, but in this case, instead of okay, all right, cooperation, what are we going to do? I need someone else to help me. What am I going to do? You have the higher octave of 2, which is the 11, which is, wait a minute, I don't have to look outside of myself. I can look inside of myself with intuition, okay, with my gifts, with my spiritual gifts. And so in that case, while it may not do necessarily harm to break down the master numbers, it may actually be, and another word I'll always use, it may be a bit more illuminating to follow the master path number because it'll take you on the higher octave of what that vibration would have been if you had broken it down further.
Interesting. I love that explanation. I have not heard of that before. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
When you said the word intuition, relying on our intuition instead of outside of us, intuitively, what came to me was the word intuition is inward, intuition. It's inside yourself versus the outward expression. Um, and I just kind of wanted to point that out because that was something intuitive that just kind of popped out to me. Is that when we are talking about these intuitive things, even numerology, it's very personal to the person doing it. You do want to listen to that intuition, listen to that inside. If you're feeling like you shouldn't break down your number, maybe don't. Maybe look at it as a whole, how the energies are combining. Um, like with that 28, normally we would add 8 plus 2 to get a 10, which would be a 1. Maybe if you're feeling like you don't want to break it down, what does 2 and 8 mean to you and how do they interact? Is there conflict there? Is it benefiting you? Are you dealing with that growth, that expansion energy combined with working with other people to do it? That could be a 28. Um, I know that's kind of not what traditional numerology is about, but to me, that's how it becomes more intuitive. And it takes on completely a whole more extra dimensions for the person doing it.
And you just said something very interesting, and that's the point, is that tradition, all right? And it's not about tradition, it's about intuition. And like you said, it's about welcoming that intuition that comes with numerology. And so, yeah, the logic mind may say, well, why am I doing this? I should stop now. But then what comes from within is saying, no, do this. This is what you should be doing. And I'll just add that, again, your point about language and how it means something. You're inspired to do something. What does inspired mean? You're in spirit. You're doing it because you're in spirit. You're not doing it because somebody else told you to. You're not looking in deeper into numerology because someone said you should look into it and you're saying, okay, I will. No, you're inspired to do it. You're in spirit. And when you're acting in spirit, it presents, like you said, quite literally, an entirely new dimension of creation.
Yes, wonderful. I love that in spirit, inspired. That's great. I think I'm gonna like write that down and it's gonna be my favorite mantra now.
Thank you,
Thank
please.
yeah,
Awesome.
thank you. Okay, so let's move on to our next point, which is our final point. Not our final question, but our final point kind of topic here is how does numerology help us in exploring compatibility between individuals? A loaded question.
Sure, of course. Well, loaded questions gets loaded answers, and so when we say loaded, that's illuminating, and absolutely, and it can absolutely help because let's say, let's say, for example, I am a, let's say I am a three. Okay, I'm a three. I'm creative. I want to get out there. I just, there's no limit. There's no tradition. Let's just live life. But then I meet somebody who's a four, more practical, more sort of. So how can it help me? All right, how can it help us? So by knowing either through a reading or reading, quite literally reading, or like I said, a spiritual reading or a psychic reading, if knowing that the other person is absolutely so. I said this before. Let's say I'm the creative one; they're the practical one. They're the practical one. So if I know that they have the numerical vibration of more practicality, and I'm just all over the place, but if I know that, that'll help me understand them more, or it'll give me a permission slip, or it'll give me an excuse, whatever the case may be, whatever definition you want to use. But it'll give me something that will allow me to accept more of who they are without judgment, and it will also allow me to see how what I learn from them can actually help us collectively. And in a way that without the knowledge of numerology, I may just say, oh my goodness, they are too hung up, they are too uptight, they are worried about the details. They have to be like me. They have to understand that everything is spirit. They have to understand that everything is energy. But meanwhile, they're looking at me and they're saying, yeah, everything is energy, but you know what? That microwave, it doesn't work. I need it replaced. So anyway, the point is that the it allows, by knowing what the other person is in a relationship, it adds another dimension, another layer of understanding. And that can only be positive.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Um, for example, someone that's a two being in a relationship with a five, you may need that partner all the time, that support, but you need to understand that they need their freedom and space as well.
Yeah.
And as long as you respect that, you understand that about each other, and you make space for both the two and the five to coexist, you could come together and have a seven.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that are amazing is that a lot of times, and much of what you said, it reminds me, is a lot of times I'll run it, clients will come and they'll say, well, I'm having, you know, they'll say, well, oh man, but this is just not. They're all over the place. They're not understanding me, and I, they say I'm running all over them. They say I'm controlling, and then I say, might you be an eight? An eight is more dominating, more powerful, more Mars energy, and then they are an eight. And so that allows sort of the other person to understand, hey, these are aspects of just who they are. It's not that they are upset at the way that I assert myself or I do. This is who they are vibrationally. It's sort of like, it's like ingredients of a plate. You do one thing, you add an ingredient, something will happen. So you know that they have this vibrational energy. That's the way it is. And so that allows the person uh, to sort of look beyond the human mask, look beyond what the mask shows, and get really into the core, or well, yeah, you said core, into the vibrational element of that person. And yeah, it's very healing, in a way, because it allows us to face aspects of ourselves that perhaps we were not ready to face. And that's really a lot of what I see, the core of the lessons of it all, when we run into the conflicts that you just mentioned, that it is designed to teach us more about ourselves. And if we can accept that, it can be even more empowering and more um, illuminating.
Thank you very much for that example. And it may also be that you realize you're not compatible with the person, possibly
Absolutely.
because of their number.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
knowing that ahead of time, you can avoid all that conflict, because hey, I just really don't like people that have a nine energy, an eight energy. Just knowing that up front, it can just we can be friends, but we'll keep it at a distance because we're gonna have conflicts here. But knowing about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, the illumination can be a part of what are we telling ourselves? What are some of the things or delusions that we are telling ourselves to keep us tied into this relationship or connection that really doesn't serve us? And so, like you said, if you said again, life path, okay, if we see that their life path is not at all what we wish to jump on, that's fine. That gives us the permission slip to step aside and move on. So absolutely, it can show us contrast. It can show us what we don't want, so that we can focus on what and who and the experiences that we actually do want.
Yes, absolutely. Um, so, what are some steps for calculating and interpreting the compatibility numbers for different types of relationships? This is a bit deeper.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I guess what we would look into. I mean, when you when you calculate for relationships, I guess we would do a little bit about what we spoke of. I mean, you would look at the two numbers and you would look at how they can complement each other and how they may not. And again, what's really important is I think is that when calculating the chart is to understand what the life path number is and to really focus on the destiny number. The soul urge number is fine, but like we talked about, it's subconscious, it's abstract, so it takes a little bit more of a deeper dive. But if we can focus on the destiny and the life path, because the destiny number will give us contrast, and by contrast, I mean it'll give us something that we're not expecting because it's something that we're working on. So to work to work on that in a practical way, you can look at the destiny number and say, okay, well, that's something I need to work on. That's because normally, and I use normally loosely, but in most cases, the life path number is something that we all can sort of identify ourselves with. Okay, we can say, okay, well, again, like the sun sign. Yeah, okay, that's kind of me. Yeah, I'm a spiritual person, or I'm a practical person, or I'm a mysterious person. We can kind of the life path energy, which again, birth, date, kind of kind of out there. It's the mask. It's the who you are. It's how you project yourself. But the destiny number, you look at it and you say, that's that's not me. Well, that's how you could use it in a practical way because those are dormant gifts, often dormant or often unused gifts that are within and that can lead to the next step or the next level or leveling up, so to speak, as we say. And that's how you can use it when you chart out these numbers in a very practical way. And I will add, you can make it even more practical, more day to day, more minute, more specific if you incorporate those spiritual birthdays. I read about the spirit. I cannot take credit for the spiritual birthdays. I read about the spiritual birthdays from a book called the Numbers book, I think, from 1912 or 1911, really early. So it's one of those things that direct to your question. I looked at it and I said, oh, okay, this is something that, and the calculations were, again, take your life path number on a day and add 9 to it. Okay, your next number will be, and you could just look online, you could find what days or what vibration. The key is that during the days that are of your own vibration, your own life path number, those are days that the synchronicities, the chance meetings will be so much more powerful to you. And the and again, not to be abstract or esoteric, but it's a very practical thing. You will see things happening more and more in the realm of the vibration of synchronicity as you give power to the spiritual birthdays 3 times a month in conjunction with your life path number, in conjunction with that destiny number that you really don't identify, but you understand you're growing into. So that's how a little circle there is how you can really incorporate it into really a daily practice.
Interesting. Um, so in terms of relationships and partnerships, would that look like looking at, the destiny numbers of each person, who they're becoming, who they are, and how compatible that destiny is with each other? Because maybe you have the same destiny number, but you have very different life path numbers. You can work on that common goal, as I
Yeah,
understand it.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of times people would say, okay, well, my partner is doing this, this, and this, and this, and I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, and I don't like this. But knowing what their destiny number is and your destiny number as well, okay, when we delve into that, now we're gonna take away because a lot of things that my guides and say they say circumstances themselves are irrelevant. Okay, they're just props, they're just energy. We assign the energy to it. So with numerology, we can further assign the energy to it instead of assigning that default energy of, oh, my relationship isn't working. They're different. They're not making sense. They're doing this, 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 and that. Well, how can we understand them more? Well, when we dive into more numerology, oh, wait a minute, and I'm going to use my term, excuse me, I'm going to use my number. They're an 8. Oh my goodness, they're just all the time. So while I'm sitting here typing, okay, neatly in my home office, they're just going crazy, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I don't know, I can't deal with them. I thought they were a different person. Well, now you know. Perhaps this is something they're working on. Perhaps they're working on their destined number of being an 8. Perhaps they're working on channeling that fiery, ambitious energy a bit more in a balanced state. So yeah, that's how you can help it with relationships. Because one person may be looking at just this defect, this frustration, this disappointment, but then again, there may also be this other energy that's all affecting that. And yeah, that's how it can be used in relationships. Because then all of a sudden, this little phase that was so horrible is now part of the growth of the relationship. Not just that person anymore. Now no longer are they pointing the finger at what they're doing. Now it's okay. We're both learning.
Yes, very true. And sometimes you could be the problem too, and like that's the thing is these numbers put it into perspective. It's so you look at your number, maybe your number is not understanding their number. And being aware of that, really puts everything into a better perspective because you say, oh, I'm part of the problem too. They're reacting to this because the 8 is having a problem with my 5 or something. Or the 4 and the 5. I think like 4 and 5 aren't the best compatibility because so I've developed my kind of intuitive method for this particular
Okay.
situation. Um,
Okay.
I'll share it really briefly. When I was
Yeah.
doing answers on Quora, I was doing these numerological compatibilities, and I came up with this intuitive way. And I'm not sure if someone else does this either, but this is the way I did it. Um, it just made sense to me as I looked at the numbers 1 through 9, because I do really like Pythagoras, and I want to put it out there that the Pythagorean system of numerology is not the only method. There are others as well. There's Chaldean, there's other ones, and they all work great. But I do think it's important to stick with one system when you're using that system. Like you don't want to mix and match them,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter what system you use because all of the systems work. Um, yes. So the method I was using was I was taking the 2 life paths because again, my knowledge of numerology is limited. But I was looking at the numbers themselves 1 through 9, and I look at if the number goes into the other number. Okay. For example, 5 is a 3 plus 2. Sorry. Just a moment. My apologies. Okay. I believe either someone's outside or someone's coming in the building. So
No worries.
lots
No
of
worries.
barking.
No worries. No
Sorry.
worries. No worries. I had the cough.
Um,
I was holding a cough for a long
yeah.
time, so that's all
No,
right.
no, it's the
Oh, you're right.
okay. So the system that I was using um is if you look at if the number goes into the other number. For
Okay.
example, a 5 is a 3 plus 2, right? Or a 4
Okay.
plus 1. So 5 is probably more compatible with a 3 or a 2 or a 1 or a 4 than it would be with a 9 because 9 doesn't go into 5. So it would be more difficult for the 5, to have a beneficial relationship for the 9. Now, that doesn't mean it goes both ways. That's just for the 5 person. The 9 person may be okay with the 5 because 5 can go into 9. But for 5, that would be a more challenging relationship. Um,
I actually, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I actually like it. And it actually goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like when you were doing the calculations about it doesn't matter the different ways that you add them up. Even though it seems like it's like, wait a minute, if I add 21 plus 8, or as opposed to 2 plus 1 plus 8, you will still get the same vibration, the same number. So in that case, and that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of like the greater that's great, because that's kind of like the greater point of all of this is that, like, yeah, a five and a four, you explained it so well. I can't explain it better, because a five and a four, for example, is a nine, but a five and a three is not a nine and would not be. So yeah, your intuitive, yeah, that's spot on, because it goes back to the numbers of vibration, and no matter how you mix and match them, ultimately they're going to come to the vibration that they truly represent. Okay, despite our mental gymnastics that we do, because that's what we're the ones doing, the mental gymnastics. We're the ones that's trying to put it into a box. We're the ones that are saying, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand how this are. But then spirit says, well, no, I mean, it's a prime number, and then if you, so there you go.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, so for example, I'm a three.
Okay.
So I love nines because three times three is nine. And
Okay.
I fit nicely into nine. But I don't really get along with fours because like four doesn't fit into three.
Sure.
Now, a four may be fine with me, because three plus one is four. But I might have issues in that relationship because I don't, if I can't, my mindset, my life, being a three, being communicative, being more free, carefree, and like flexible, would have issues with the rigidity of a four and the structure. And I like to think of four as kind of like a table. Table is very sturdy. It's a strong foundation. It's sturdy. You can lean on it. You can stand on the table. Four legs. And so I like to think of four people kind of like that. Whereas the three person, you can have a table, but you're probably not going to be as stable. And definitely for a two person, you need a little help. That's why you have a partnership there.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. That was my intuitive on it, is that one can fit with everybody, but at the end, one is going to have some issues because they need that individuality. And
Yeah.
because you think what goes into one? Nothing. But every one can go into any other number in some way. But that was my own little method of how I was doing compatibility, and it seemed to work somewhat. Like it seemed to be okay. People had good responses to it. So just think about that with your relationships. Are you compatible? Does this person's number fit into mine?
Yeah. No.
And yeah. And if it doesn't, what can you do about that? Do you need to be a little more independent yourself to make it fit better? I would just be more flexible because then or is my number fitting into the other person's? If I'm the nine and I'm in a relationship with the five, and we're having issues, is that something I can do about that to make this relationship work smoother?
And it also allows it allows people, and I think you sort of mentioned this, but it allows people to walk away from a relationship when it truly doesn't serve them, because more often than not, there's often an attempt to sort of hold on to the connection in a relationship when both people are clearly unhappy. So yeah, in a lot of these cases, it's saying, okay, well, listen, you're a three, I'm a this, that certain elements don't mix. No matter how many times you try, water and fire just will not coexist together. So it's okay, and that doesn't make it bad. It's just okay. It's vibration. It's a law of the universe with a capital
Uh,
L.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not everybody is going to like everybody, and not everyone is meant to be with everyone. So it's not a bad thing to just say, we're not very compatible.
Yeah.
Whether it's astrology, whether it's numerology, whether you just don't get along, no matter what your charts say, saying, I just feel like this is not working is not a bad thing. There's
Yeah.
someone out there better for you. So be with that person.
Exactly, exactly. Like a lot of, my guides, a lot of my mentors always say, especially when people are stuck, so to speak, in relationships and that sort of thing, and then they're afraid to move on. A lot of the things, one of the main things they say is that they say that Well, it's not really that person that you're attached to. It's the qualities of it's the qualities that you're looking for in that person or another person, and you know, quite simply, we can even bring it back to numerology. It's the qualities that you're looking for. It's not the person, it's the qualities. What makes up their vibration? Who are they? What are their elements? That's what you're looking for. It's the qualities, the vibration of the person, and the best, or at least the core of a person is, of course, in their numerology, which again is like Pythagoras said, it's the vibration of it's a vibration of the universe. It's the basis of the universe. Everything is vibration. Everything is numbers, and I think that the exact term that I once read a long time ago is that numbers make up the form of reality, and that's amazing. So yeah, numerology is a real thing.
It absolutely is amazing, just how powerful numbers are in everything. So we have one final question before we wrap up tonight. Um, can you please share some examples of how numerology compatibility has provided insights into romantic relationship or romantic friendship or business relationships? So romantic, friendship, and business.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, definitely. So, um, so the romantic side will most likely, I, with a lot of people that I deal with, that I spoke about it a little bit, where it's like they're trying to hold on, all right, to the relationship, and they don't know why, but they're trying to hold on. But in a certain case like this, it's like, well, the numerology is showing you that actually you're not compatible, and that you would be better off exploring. I mean, sometimes the numerology can show that, okay, you can work together. Like I said, if you sort of look at the destiny number. So I've seen that a lot. So that's one thing where the people can kind of accept the idea that, you know what, it's not the person, it's qualities, and you can find the qualities in somebody else. That's one thing. Now in business, I myself have often I well, I use numerology in business in a different way, not in a different way, but there are many different ways. There's, of course, the relationship aspect of it. Okay. Will you get along with that person? Will they be compatible, their integrity, and that sort of thing? But also, when it comes to business, I really deal with the days. Because when it comes with business, now it's more, and this perhaps is, I guess, one way to focus. You could focus on others, or you could focus on the self. And I like to focus on the self. And so when it comes to the numbers and other people, I like to see, okay, well, number one, what's their dominant vibration? Okay, so am I dealing with a spiritual person, say a seven, or am I dealing more with a six, or a two, That's more cooperation. It's more like, oh no, we've got to cross our I's and our T's. Or am I dealing with somebody that's saying, hey, let's just flow ideas together, and so that'll help me in the business aspect to know what type of approach would be best in fostering a business relationship. All right. And that's huge, again, because the numbers tell, you hear the term like the stars tell all, or the stars don't lie. The numbers tell all. And with business, especially with that, again, it really helps pull back all the things that we were taught as humans, all the things that we are worried about. Oh, they're, don't trust people, or you can trust people, or the money, or it takes away all of those belief systems that we've piled on ourselves, all those negative belief systems that we piled on, and we cut through the belief systems, go straight to the core of the number, and I say, okay, well, I'm dealing with a three. All right. All this other stuff was coming at me, but look, I'm dealing with a three. I'm good with that. Awesome. So that's one thing. So that's another. So that's business, relationship. And what was the third?
Um, friendship.
And friendship is a bit. It's a bit more. It's a bit like the business, except obviously it's a bit deeper. And with friendships, it's very important because friendships are almost the opposite of the approach of relationships. Because friendships, first and foremost, you want to look at preservation of holding the friendship. Relationships are, either you met, either it'll work or it may not work, but there's something special about friendships. You had friends, you can, what do they say? You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. All right. And so friendships allows you to sort of look into behaviors, events with, again, higher octave, a better point of view, a different point of view, as opposed to just what people are saying. That person is not. They're not trustworthy. They're talking behind your back. Oh boy, you don't want to. So all of this stuff, again, it allows you to really look into who they are, and most importantly, especially if you know what their destiny number is, it allows you to look, or at least to kind of, yeah, kind of give an eye over to what are they working on. All right, why were they introverted, last year? Why did it appear that they were deceptive? Okay, are they working on issues on self-worth? Okay, is their destiny path number 9? Are they working towards making themselves more whole, more completion? Or is it just they're self-centered? Well, self-centered seems like it just seems like people are just. But if I look more into what, okay, wait, they're a destiny number 9. All right, so perhaps there are issues with their identity, with who they are, that's not complete. Maybe that's and it's not an excuse, but perhaps it's a layer towards understanding of my friend who's developing just as I am. So numerology can be especially prominent in really preserving friendships that can really suffer due to misunderstandings, which is often a downfall of friendships.
Very interesting. Thank you for those insights. Numerology is a great thing to understand everyone around us, our world.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it should be covered more, actually, because I think that we all know about astrology, we all know about different things, but numerology kind of like gets to, oh yeah, there are numbers, but it's just as powerful. It's part of it.
Yes. Definitely. And I feel like we could even do like a whole second podcast episode just on numerology alone, because there's so much more applications. Like if you talk about angel numbers and the numbers of your house, your phone number, all of these numbers around us, we can calculate down to a common core of what are they telling us.
And
But that's something that's kind of outside of scope of our discussion today, though.
absolutely, and I will just say this because, like you said, it is outside of our discussion. But you did mention, like I said, that there's so many different, and you mentioned it a few times, that there are different aspects of numerology, and I actually use numerology in readings because of that aspect. Because, like I believe you mentioned the different aspects of it, the different categories of numerology, and for example, I also focus on Kabbalah astrology. Now, Kabbalah astrology is very good for readings because it has an astrological component. 7 is Sagittarius, 1 Mercury, 2 is the moon, 5 is Jupiter. So then if someone's a 5, then I'm going to look at Jupiter. I'm going to see what's going on. What is Jupiter doing in their chart? Or if they're a 7, I'm going to see, what's going on in the Sagittarius area of the chart. So I'm I'm just further supporting your statement that, yeah, there are many different aspects of numerology, and with the amazing thing is they all correlate. If you gave me some aspects of your numerological chart, I will then be able to look at the astrological chart and I'd be able to say, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Okay, it makes sense that, okay. Whoa. Okay, you're a 10. Oh, there's a 10 here, or this happened on a 10 day. There was a breakthrough on a day that was 10. Ah, okay. Well, Uranus rules 10. that makes sense. So anyway, it's a whole world.
It
It's a
really
whole world.
is. Even with tarot, like you can even do so much astrology with that too. Um, like I said, like we could have multiple podcast episodes all about the different applications. But at least I hope that you have a basic understanding of those big three, just like you have your rising, moon, and sun sign. Now you have your life path, destiny, and soul urge to complement that.
You know what? That's a great one to one analogy actually. Because yeah, no, really, because if you think of the moon sign, for example, the moon sign is what? Our subconscious, right? And then if you think of, like you just said, the soul urge energy, what did we just talk about? Soul urge, subconscious, okay? Those things are hidden. So yeah, that's awesome.
It really does. Life path is who we are, and a lot of it, it's not exactly the same. You don't want to oversimplify it. The sun sign is not all about who you are. It's just about your basic, most obvious personality traits. But I mean, that's very similar to life path, our basic personality traits. Destiny, we could say that's kind of like the rising sign. It's how we're presenting outwardly in the world, what we're doing. Soul urge, more subconscious. We have the moon, it's like our personal life, what's inside of us. And they all play a role. And you can definitely add numerology into that. Um, Compare it, see how it works, because I believe all methods of divination work equally as well. There's different tools for everyone. And that's the beauty of having Mystic Sense, is that there's psychics that specialize in all the tools.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's awesome to like you said, the tools, and it's awesome to be able to use these tools because say yeah, and say there's someone on, on Mystic Sense who has a bunch of questions, but they don't have all the time in the world. With numerology, you're able to get insights just like that. I don't need to
Very.
draw up a chart. I don't need to sit here. We don't need to, I don't have to ask the person. They don't have to say, okay, I was born on this day, this time, at this time. Okay, hold on. No, what's your name? What's the birthday? Do the math. Already, we have a framework to begin.
Fascinating. So I believe this wraps up our time together. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here. Thank you for your time. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up our time together?
Well, I thought we were just getting started, but I guess so. No, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure, and yeah, the only thing I'll add is that it is an awesome thing to add spirituality into what we do, because what we do is all spirituality.
I like that quote. It's very nice. It's very powerful for what we're doing tonight. Um, Thank you for being here. So, if you would like to book a session with Mike on Mystic Sense, make sure to go check out his link, which should be in the description to this video. Check him out. If you can't find him, search his name on Mystic Sense, and your name is Maichael.
My name is Michael Kemo. Michael and then Kemo, Kemo. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, yes, yes, definitely go check him out. Add him to your favorite advisors and get a numerology reading with him. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and thanks for being here, Mike.
It is my pleasure. Thank you. And let's reconnect again.
Yes. Have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye.